welcome everybody to the show. It's Architecture for the Soul. We have Matheus from Brazil that he has involved in with robotics and digital fabrication lab experiments with manufacturing techniques using robotic arms. In 2020, Matheus received the AAA Student of the Year award and began his master thesis research studying that neuroscientific present in architecture, discourse, and the design of the application for artificial neural networks. And in 2021, it was a big year for you. You basically graduated for your master's in architecture, and they received three awards: the Super Jury Award, Master TC Award, and the Award of Academic Excellence. And you have a TikTok with 150,000 followers. That's huge, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, crazy. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's been a crazy ride joining the architecture academic world. And I'm more than excited to have graduated now and start actually helping, the world of building worlds for sure.
For sure. I would like to start talking about how you come from Brazil and how did you end up in the United States? Are you right now, right?
Yes. It's actually crazy to think about where I began and the dreams that I had to get here. I was born in this little town in Brazil called Tatuí, which probably no one knows about it. And my grandparents, they had a farm. So I basically grew up in a farm in Brazil, and it was not a typical farm. At points they had dogs, breeding huge dogs, and at some point they had horses. But the part that I remember the most, PETA, the organization that rescue wild animals and all, Brazil has the equivalent of PETA, and my grandparents, they were affiliated with this organization. So mistreated wild animals were taken by the government and given to affiliated farms to take care of them. So at some point, we were living in this farm with monkeys and emus, like ostriches, running through the fields. And it was such a crazy experience growing up in like the middle of nowhere with wild animals. And at some point I moved to a bigger city in Brazil, close to São Paulo. And when I started high school in Brazil, we had a presentation from people from Harvard and Cornell in my high school, just talking about the experience of having a degree in the US. And that became my goal. I knew that I wanted to come to the US and do my college here. So I studied a lot, and I studied English, which I wasn't fluent in English until I was 15. So it's a fairly new language for me, but I was able to get around. And it became my goal. So when the opportunity came and I actually applied for FIU, I had this huge opportunity to come here and start my university career. And I didn't actually get into architecture right away. I did 7 years of theater in Brazil. And I was certain that what I wanted to become was an actor, or at least a scene designer, a scenographer. Scenographer? Is that how you say it?
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So when I applied, I actually applied for theater at FIU, and I got accepted into the university for theater. And 1 week before I actually started school, I switched to architecture out of, in a way, a little part of me was afraid that doing theater in a language that I wasn't, the best on wouldn't be the best for me. And at the same time, my passion for theater was this idea of creating this parallel world, this parallel moment in time where you're taken away from your life and you live something else. And what I started to think was maybe I can do that with architecture, and actually do the scenography of everyday life in a way.
In architecture, in the world, in my point of view, the things is that basically we have two worlds: the intangible world and the tangible world.
Mm-hmm.
And how I see the things that architecture is the link between those two worlds is how you can convert some idea that is in a no physical way, and you are the link that you shape this idea into reality. And that's the reason that I study architecture. I find a lot of potential in the career. I see that wow, one that I get it, it was huge. It's like I can convert my ideas into reality. And I'm a very complex world in me. Like in my head is just a mess with super cool things, and I can represent those kind of things and ideas into the real world, and that's is amazing. And I think that you get it and put it in the next level.
Yeah, it's actually a very, very powerful career. And a lot of people don't realize, but who's we spend more like around 90, more than 90% of our times, our lives indoors. And, there's studies and recent studies that actually prove the effects that our environment have on the brain. And that's why I'm interested in neuroscience, and we'll get there soon. But architects and people who build the environment have the power to shape how we feel, how we live, how we move from one place to the other. If we meet other people or we're isolated, if we get light or not, if we, even the materiality of the flooring that determines if you hear your steps on the floor or not, if it echoes other people's conversations, and you're part of a community, or you feel alone, and all of that is, it seems like a stretch, but it's actually a powerful thing, and also a big responsibility. Like, architects need to understand the effects that they have when they design things. And I think that is where I find my passion in architecture, is not necessarily having this big object in the far, like, oh, I designed this huge tower, it's my tower. No, it's actually changing how people, feel in the spaces and bring an experience. And that is what I think is the most interesting thing about architecture.
I personally agree with that, because at the end, if architecture is not to change the world and to change the people's lives, then what it is for. And and I think that, and I would like to dig into this idea that you was talking about, and I know that is all this is related to your thesis, and I would like to know more about this. How, first, what it is, then how you made to explain this to the professors, how you represent this kind of things while ideas.
So yeah, well, just to start, it was hard explaining to my professors, and I believe up to the last week of classes, my professors were still not fully understanding where I was getting. It was just like, wait, I'll pull this, I'll pull this. But the interest for this came with looking at researchers at AMFA. AMFA is the Academy for Neuroscience in Architecture. Here in the United States, but it's getting like global attention. And it's basically this organization that brings scientists and architects together to, find these points of commonality and, share ideas and do research that can merge the two. And I was part of the 2020 ANFA conference, and I saw a bunch of presentations of different researchers, and that really inspired me to seek, you know, um, there's different points that people are starting to research now. People are starting to experiment now. And if, environment has such a big impact on the brain, and we're learning all of these new things, why can't the people responsible for building the environment, interact with that? So that was mainly my reason for joining this research. And what I experimented was something very specific, let's say. Um, in the end, my whole project was to create different variations of our perception, and then transfer this perception back, aligning with the material reality. Meaning that if I'm in my room right now, I can see things differently with a computer aided perception, but then still be able to interact with the space and, change how I perceive it. And that's all combined. The second part of that is actually combining with the actual sensory data from the body. My body, my biofeedback is actually responsible for changing the environment. So, the system understands how I'm feeling, understands what my body needs, and then modifies what I'm perceiving based on that. So there are layers of complexion that
Yeah.
come, parts of what I'm doing is actually out of my expertise. So I'm collaborating with people and talking to all these different scientists and computer scientists, trying to find the best solutions and crack this code. Um, but the very test that I performed, the prototype for my project, was creating these these variations of perception reality based on memory. So the main idea is, let's say you have your Apple Watch that is constantly tracking your heart rate and your CO2 levels and all. So getting this data, you're able to recognize if you're stressed or if you're relaxed, if you're calm, if you're appreciative, if you're actually annoyed. All of these this data can give a sense of what you're feeling. Imagine if a camera is able to record the context around you when you're feeling extremely happy and calm. So then when you're back to your room and your body signals that you're actually stressed, what if you can change your perception for elements of the contextual space where you're feeling calm? So subconsciously, you're able to appreciate and change the environment based on these memories of calm spaces that you have experienced before. So it's a very personalized way of viewing, an interactive space that maybe for you, if you come to my room and you're seeing my reality, it might not mean anything to you, but for me, it's a subconscious thing. So that was what I was experimenting with.
This thing is powerful, and I think that it's just a small seed that you find out that you can explore more, because we are involved in this world of cyberspaces, actually, that is ideas like this can get into be more bigger. The last time, a couple of days ago, I was in a conference, actually a virtual conference of Patrick Schumacher, the principal of Sigue Architects, and he was talking about this specifically, about how cyberspaces are converting this new area of architecture and how architects can get into this world. Because when I'm talking about cyberspaces, I mean, um, these intangible spaces that are in the networks, on internet, that you can be part of, even of communities. For example, these games like Minecraft or whatever, Call of Duty is basically a world, and that you interact with the community and those kind of things. So I was talking about this conference about Patrick Schumacher, that he is talking about cyberspaces and how these cyberspaces interact in a new area with the people, and these games like Minecraft and Call of Duty, and those all these games that are basically a community into the internet and into the virtual world, are you can form basically a network there, and it's kind of cool, how the architecture can evolve and those kind of things. And I think that your idea about how you perceive the reality is have a very powerful field in that aspect of cyberspaces, because a perception of the reality, I think, that is very personal thing, and it's very hard to transmit and represent. For example, the communication evenly, the word that we speak, is to limit of what we are. That's, I think, that one of the reasons that I like so much architecture, because I can express myself into something else, in not just words and not just in a specific way, is something else that I can communicate. And I think that what you're doing is very interesting, because you can see from that point of view that you can bring something very personal into a very cool project.
Yeah, for sure. This idea of personalizing experiences is actually completely attached to these new discoveries that they're doing in science as well. Even neuroscientists are talking about we're not perceiving reality, we're constantly generating it, and all of this perception comes from preconceived ideas and experiences. And everyone is raised differently; they have different experiences throughout their life. So everything, every opinion and idea, what makes us who we are is based on what we know and what we believe in. So
Yes, for
this idea
sure.
of personalizing is extremely important. This is the time, we're now having the resources to actually do things like this. And if you think about architecture in the past, even right now, there's so many people still looking at architecture that was done in the 1920s and 30s, people that preached by the Bauhaus, and nothing wrong. The Bauhaus was an amazing movement, and
by that area
right, and
in that specific time was a big solutions.
yeah, exactly. This whole idea that we still have to do Miss Van der Rohe buildings all around. I'm not criticizing because it's amazing, but it had its era, and it doesn't necessarily mean the aesthetics of it needs to change. I'm not saying we need to do blob buildings everywhere, everything needs to look futuristic, but the way of doing architecture needs to be personalized for who we are, because that's every other science is leading towards that way, and we shouldn't be stuck with what we believe is right. We have to merge and interact with the other disciplines that are actually marching towards a bit larger understanding of who we are as a species and how we should be treating ourselves and the environment. I should add that.
For sure. And I think that the times are changing. We now live in an area that we basically needs to be resilient to survive, especially in the coming years. We have a big challenge of design of how we can convert architecture in these shelters to protect for any incident that it can happen for the future, that it can be a sickness like coronavirus, or even a drastic climate change. And I think that it's very interesting how these virtual spaces convert into more important we think that are. For example, TikTok. You are a guy that basically are super famous in TikTok, and you are bringing your ideas into TikTok. And I see a very interesting exercise that how you can convert an idea, a huge idea like your thesis, into 1 minute video and explain everything there. Like, it's huge, And I would like to know about how you can bring this storytelling in TikTok, and how do you manage this new era of technology and cyberspaces?
So the storytelling part, I think TikTok, is the platform that is huge right now because it's fast content, right? And it's important to notice that we live in a world right now that we have access to so much information all the time. So if you want to deliver a message, it needs to be fast, it needs to be digestible and straight to the point. I think people are more leaning to learn something in 15 seconds than they are to watch a 16-minute video explaining it. And if you don't deliver the information, that's it. It gets lost and people don't really get it. Like, even if you open a YouTube video, most of the time you're going to be skipping to get exactly what you need and then carry on. And that's where the storytelling technique comes from. But I believe in regards to design and exploration, what I started doing with TikTok was actually all of these little projects that I do for fun on the side. When I get bored, just what if I just record them and post, And I believe for doing that, even though I wasn't worried about the quality of the video and editing and anything like that, a lot of people recognize this intuition of exploring and doing things that are, what if we do this? What if we just, try to change it, And the first very project that I posted was actually a door handle design that I was like, I was so many times carrying boxes to my room and I had to use my butt to open the door, the door handle. And I was like, what if I can make a door handle that I can activate with my foot? So I can just step on it and open the door. So then it just became this exploration thing with gears and a gear system, trying to, make this cyberpunk looking thing that, you can just step on a handle, opens the door, and that's it.
Yeah,
and because
I feel
have
you,
the
bro.
3D printer and all, it was just a quick project that was fun to make. It was, this little extracurricular activity, but
Yeah.
And then it started this whole like video making thing.
And it went viral, and I think that you have a big stage for sharing your ideas and your voice. And and again, it's a thing of communication, you know, because at the end it's a way of communicate by videos and all those kind of things. And I see that you're into in TikTok. You have a lot of experience in 3D print and those kind of things. I would like to talk about that. What do you think about 3D printing? Do you think that is the next wave to build organic shapes in the real world? What do you think about that?
Um, it's underrated so much right now. People don't realize how much of our lives are going to depend on 3D printing. This idea that right now you can order something on Amazon and you have it in 2 days. I believe in the future, or the very near future, like a couple of months to a year from now, or a couple of years, 3D printing is going to become so reliable and fast and efficient that instead of you buying the product to be shipped, from another state on a truck and then get to a warehouse that takes land space, you can just buy the digital asset and print it in your house. So if you buy it right now, boom, it's printing. It's going to be done in a couple hours, and you don't have all of this carbon footprint of delivering the material and things. Not everything. If you want to buy headphones, you cannot 3D print a whole headphone, but so many things that we use every day are just pieces of plastic or regular shapes that it's so easy to 3D print. And that's one thing that I was doing at the house. I was one day, or we had a kid pool, one of those inflatable pools, and there was a hole on it. So I just 3D printed a thing that was the shape of the hole and then a suction thing. So I just slapped it in there, and boom, we didn't need to buy a repair kit and wait 2 days, and we were using the pool again in 2 hours. And people don't realize that 3D printing, in even like this is like a household small scale. And now we're looking at Mars, living in Mars, or construction, concrete printed houses. It's already a reality.
Yeah.
And it's getting better and better by the minute.
And I think that that's the strategy. For example, I was reading this book of Bjarke Ingels, the latest book that I highly recommend. I am a big fan of Bjarke. And he, in his last chapter, he was talking about life beyond the Earth, and he exposed and present some proposal for Mars and the Moon. And actually, the technology that he shows to make reality these ideas is 3D printing. I think that I'm agree with you. I think that 3D printing is not explode as it is. It have to be, and I think that is a great opportunity even for you that are very into that world. It's a great business opportunity to explore and make a big career, bringing this technology into the next level. For example, I think that we're gonna go to a point that we can build 3D print buildings, like huge buildings. Now we can do it with a house that is just very simple things. It's funny because I was seeing that the first 3D print house was like a regular house, and I was like, come on, really? It's the first one, and you make it like a regular house. And I think that that's allow you to have a lot of uh, a lot of big ideas that you can convert into realities, and a lot of potential shape that you have never had the possibility to make it in the traditional ways. You can make it now. And even to send message, to send a message that maybe you can do it in the past. Because I was seeing a video that you put in TikTok about the I don't know the word for that. Is like a pocket for the cigarettes, I think. What is the right
Oh
word for
yeah.
that? It's something
It
like
was
that,
a
right?
electronic cigarette holder.
Yeah, that one. And you was like, you said that you was trying to deliver a message with that, and I was surprised. Like, hey, even that my client commission something that I that probably is something good for him, but for me it's more deeper than that. I would like to deliver a message in a very cool way, and you just 3D print that thing and you do a
Yeah,
very good
I remember
exercise.
this one project. Once I posted, I got a lot of criticism, like, "Oh, the designer shouldn't be, giving a message to the client, and this is not your position. You should just do the design and like shut up." And like, okay, first of all, the client was actually really happy with the idea. Nothing was done like, underground or anything. And it was just a subtle thing. It wasn't like I wrote stop smoking
Yeah.
in the thing, but the actual aesthetics and the concept and all came from this, parasitic format, almost like Venom, the Marvel villain,
Yeah.
kind of wrapping around the electronic cigarette, and providing a function. He wanted something that would like fit in a pocket, in a belt, like almost like a belt holder. And it's like this little way of telling a message through design that is not necessarily obvious, but it makes you think, or it raises a question. And I think that's the power of design. You can talk. It's this pre-linguistic communication that we were talking about,
Yeah.
that you can talk without words.
For sure, for sure. And I would like to know about more about Sunken Blimp is the name. It's my understanding is an exploratory studio focused into approaches to architecture design combined with neuroscientifics and software engineer, etc. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. So right after my exposure on TikTok, I actually started doing a lot of really interesting projects, collaborating with other people, and it follows along the things that we've been talking so far. The idea of the future. We're marching towards a future where 3D printing, environmental consciousness are going to be extremely important. And Sunken Blimp is a company that we recently opened to channel all of these designs and projects through. And the biggest one that we're working on right now is actually a greenhouse in Sri Lanka. And we're collaborating with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, hydroponic specialists. And Sri Lanka has actually a really big problem with land and land availability for crops and production. So the idea, we're designing a whole greenhouse that has no land, hence the hydroponics of it, and completely made of vertical towers that are 3D printed. A combination of 3D printing joints and the bamboo growing in the area. So we're using the bamboo as structure with the joints from the 3D print, and doing a spiral tower that channels the water through the crops using gravity, and in a way a very energy efficient way of growing that is extremely reliable, organic, without pesticides and all. And there's already like contracts with supermarkets around the area, so it's actually growing the project. And I'm going to start sharing soon. So far it's been a lot of research and prototyping, but now we're marching towards a more solid final product, and we're going to start posting soon. um, but
For sure,
that's
I would like to keep updated about that, because right now I'm in Rotan, and into a place that is Prospera. Prospera basically is is how I would call it, like Bloomberg call it into his latest article, the startup city, the startup nation of the future. And basically is economic, is an enterprise that do platforms to catalyze prosperity, and this is through special economic zones. And basically what we're doing in Roatan, that is Honduras. As you know, in Latin America, Honduras is a place that you probably relate with crime and poor and those bad things. What we're doing is that we are working in a specific geographic land that is limited with a, let's call it a specific land with that is have limits, and in these limits we have a special laws. and that's allow you to explore different possibilities of what you can create. And for architects, it's an amazing because I with Lava, that is one of the, for the one that you don't know, I work with Lava 2. That is a laboratory for visionary architecture. It's in a studio of architecture that basically is in different part of the world. And we
Awesome.
we always are thinking about this idea of future. And we was thinking about the city of the future, how it looks like, how it's gonna be. And I think that all this idea that we have shared in this podcast, and all these ideas about hydroponic, about 3D printing, about taking architecture to the next level in a tangible and intangible way, is what we would like to apply in Prospera. And in, not only into say, uh, because the world is always like, hey, we have this and this is only what we got, and you cannot change it. And I think that we have the tremendous potential to change everything that we want, and it can be better as we want. This idea of Prospera is basically that you have the governance about around the world, and Prospera says, hey, you can do better than that. And
Mhm.
you know what? We're gonna do it better, and we're gonna do a platform that is basically a governance platform that it will be much better than any government in the world, with all with the special advantage of everything, because the governance is a monopoly. You only have one option in Brazil. You can say, hey, fuck it, I will go into
Unfortunately.
Brazil, but and I will start a new nation and I will govern by myself. You cannot do that. And with this special economic zone, you can not make another country, but you can potentialize specific zones, and you can bring liberty into the next level. And and basically, I'm so passionate about these kind of the ideas, and I would like that we can share more about this idea that you have, because I see a tremendous potential in you as a guy that probably have the potential to change the world if you want. And I have been
Mhm.
a good conversation with you. I think that it, I enjoy very much talking about all this kind of things. So tell me, what is gonna be your next step into, now that you graduate, and what
So
are you gonna do?
now with Sunken Blimp, I'm happy to say, I'm a co-founder of Sunken Blimp, and the one of the biggest ideas is exactly what you mentioned. This idea that we are marching towards, this merge with the metaverse. This idea of a metaverse, or this parallel of reality that is online and digital, and it's already here. We already have phones, and it's a no conversation that it's not even worth getting in right now. But once VR, AR starts becoming such a big thing, what if there are other nations? What if you can create your own nation that is, it's somewhere else? People are accessing it throughout the world, but at the same time, it's it's not really in your country. It's something else with its own rules and regulations and commerce. And you know
Yeah.
it's actually interesting to think about this. And I think Sunken Blimp is extremely excited to like merge with these ideas and start experimenting with the architecture of the future regarding not only physical architecture, but this metaverse universe that we're now starting to experiment with. And I think it's closer to us than what we believe in. And especially now with cryptocurrency and
Yeah, for sure.
NFTs, the idea that you can own something digitally and exchange digitally, and the possession of assets. We're gonna see this coming way faster, and in the future we're gonna
Yeah,
be able
for
to
sure.
buy buildings and land, and
You
inhabit the
you are.
space.
I think that you are in the correct business for the future. Maybe too soon, but you are in the correct path. But I think that the world going in that way, and your business apply perfectly for Prospera. By the way, if you would like to come and open your business here, we would love to. It's like hanging out in front of the beautiful sea, in front of the paradise, in work from home, and those kind of things. It's like the dream that everybody would like to have. And you're open, welcome to come whatever you want. By the way, you have a house here in Prospera.
Oh,
And
I'll be there. Trust.
for sure, you just stop here when you go into Brazil and have a pre-vacations.
Oh, I would love that.
And I would like to close this podcast with a question that we often do, and
Mhm.
it's a very interesting question. You can take how much time do you would like to have for answer this? And is if you have the opportunity to show, let's call word, image, or even sound in all the billboards of the world for one day, what it will be?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Imagine that you have the opportunity to
Okay.
put in all the billboards in the world one word, an image, or even a sound, whatever you want, a video, whatever you want, in all the billboards of the world, what it will be? A message.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. What it will be your message to the world?
Um, There's so many things that need fixing in so many ways. But okay,
Don't
let
worry,
me.
take your time, take your time. We can edit this for sure.
All right, I'm gonna. It's crazy, but I think the main word or message that I would like to convey is to share. And it I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know exactly the visuals that will go with it, but I think so many people are in possession of such valuable information, knowledge, and they hold on to that knowledge because knowledge is money nowadays, you know? If you develop the one product that is the best with the one formula, you get the money. And if you share that knowledge, other people are going to do it and you don't get the money. And we have the ability of fixing everything and saving the world from disasters and killing nature. We have everything. And I believe it's about collaborating. You know, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if I wasn't collaborating with other people. And I think the main thing is sharing, explaining uh,
Yeah,
what
for
you
sure.
know and getting other people know and stop worrying so much about the money of it, and patents and all. I think there's a big part of that. And I believe architecture can have a lot of that, sharing what we do with
For sure.
other fields and field sharing as well. Um, but I believe that is the only way we can survive here is actually collaborating.
I think that we born to that. We born to be community. We born to love. We born to share. I think that that's one of the reasons that humanity exists beyond of the philosophical topics that we can get into. I think that humans need to share. I think that humans are not ready to to discover the final design, but we meanwhile we need to get in this idea that we have to share with others in a way that doesn't make sense, you know.
For sure. And it sounds silly as an example, but I learned so much since I started sharing on TikTok. It's crazy the amount of things that I now know and the amount of people that now I have contact with. And I wouldn't have if I just kept those little things to myself. And I see every now and then someone that, tags me on TikTok and they did what I do, they try to replicate it. And it's amazing. It's honestly so rewarding to see that now someone is able to do a door handle design, they were able to go into their room, by stepping on the door handle. And I think it's a silly example, but we all have a lot of information. We all have our own experiences, our personal perception. I think the way of collaborating in the future, it's not only just talking and making videos, but entering each other's perception. And I think architecture is going to be there sooner than we believe.